So the Mesa Boogie Mark VII came out in the spring of 2023, and I wanted to get my hands on it and play it, but it just took time. I wasn't able to grab one as early as I was hoping. I wanted to get one as soon as it happened because I'm new to the Mesa Boogie world, and seeing this kind of landmark amp come out and it have already included so many of these other historic landmark amps was really enticing. So I wanted to play one, and there have been some really awesome videos that have come out that have made me want them even more, and so I'm glad that I could finally bring one home and spend a little bit of time with it and get to explore it. Just a heads up, this is an explanation video for those who are maybe considering purchasing one but haven't quite made that decision. They're a little bit concerned about how many knobs and switches there are. This is a video if you're someone who has bought one and you're waiting for it to arrive and you want to know, like, how do I get into this thing quickly? I know I like to watch videos like that. This video is also for you, and this is also just an exploratory video if you're someone who is really into Mesa Boogie and its really rich history of, you know, making incredible amps since 1969. And this is a good one for you too. And also, you know, one more just to throw it in there. If you're someone who's afraid of the intimidating form factor, this video is for you, because I want ultimately for anyone to walk up to a Mark VII and go, oh, I can get any sound I want. This is you know, seemingly intimidated by all the knobs and switches because how much it can do. You know, you're not going to walk into a rocket ship and, you know, see a launch button and a descend button. You're going to see an array of options and buttons and touchpads and knobs and, you know, whatevers, because it can do a lot. And just like a rocket ship, the Mark VII can really do an incredible array of different sounds. It can really cover an array of genres and tones and sounds. So yeah, this isn't going to be a simplified amp that only gets a few sounds. This is a versatile amp with tons of options to get you whatever it is that you're trying to get. You know, whether it's dial in something old or maybe tap into something entirely new that you haven't, you know, in maybe some sonic landscape that you haven't been able to explore before. But I think this is going to be the one that's going to get you there. So lastly, before we get into it, this is not a playthrough demo. I'm just walking you through the switches, the knobs, and the options. I've got another video coming where a buddy of mine came over and we explored the sounds together. Even from what I could get from it, from the clean, fat, and crunch, and then some of the Mark VII. So just know that that's not what this one is. This is just to help simplify things. I want you to feel good walking into it, understanding what it is that you can get from this. So with that, let's jump into the Mesa Boogie Mark VII. 920D Custom is the industry-leading manufacturer of high-end guitar wiring harnesses, control plates, and loaded pickguards, and treats every build like it's going into their own guitars. 920D Custom overhauled two of my own guitars with new pickups, components, and wiring, so I knew firsthand just what they're capable of. Anytime someone is looking to enhance their tone, I recommend 920D Custom. So if you're looking to improve your tone, upgrade your components, or to simply try something new, check out the loaded pickguards, combo kits, pickups, and components at 920dcustom.com today. That's 920dcustom.com. All right, so let's go ahead and just break down what makes all the different components on here, and then let's just go through them all, okay? So I think the first thing that's, you know, probably the most obvious, that feels the most overwhelming when you're having a look at the Mark VII is how many knobs there are, okay? So straight away, we got 21 knobs. Let's count that. 18, so 6, 6, 6, 18, and then 3 more. At 21 knobs just on the face of it. Then you've got 3, 6, 9, 12 dip switches, not counting power and standby. So, of course, when you're looking at this, it can be really overwhelming. There's a lot to it. But interestingly, the way that Mesa has, you know, created and arranged this process of playing through the Mark VII is actually, if you can get one part down, you've got the rest of it down. So what's cool about this is it's structured in a way of, think of it like gain stairs or gain steps, right? So here's your first step, here's your second step, and here's your third step. So as you increase your steps, you're increasing your gain staging. So, you know, or gain power, gain possibilities, whatever you want to call it. There's a ton of gain that's going to give you options as you increase. So step up and then step down, right? So to make this easy, channel 1, channel 2, and channel 3. Gain stage 1, gain stage 2, gain stage 3. These aren't literal gain stages maybe you would think of in like pedal effects, but I think this is the easiest way to kind of simplify, mentally at least. So channel 1, you've got these 3 dip switches here on the left side: clean, fat, and crunch. EQ, 0 foot switch. 90 watt, 45 watt, 25 watt. Then you got channel 2 here: fat, crunch, Mark VII. EQ, 0 foot switch, 90 watt, 45 watt, 25 watt. Channel 3, Mark IIB, Mark IIC, Mark IV, EQ, 0 foot switch, 90 watt, 45 watt, 25 watt. I'm sure you noticed the obvious. It's the same layout on all 3 channels. This is what makes this actually an easy amp. If you can remember what each channel is, just simply like, hey, I like the middle stage. Maybe this is too much gain, or for some reason I'm really connecting with the cleans on this amp and the lower gain, so I'm going to stay with this amp. Whatever you're doing on each individual channel is going to translate to the other channels. So you know what's here. This is your 3-band EQ on the bottom, gain on top left, master top middle, and then presence on top right. Same thing, 3-band EQ on bottom, 3-band EQ on bottom, gain on both, master in the middle, presence on the right. It's the same layout across all 3 channels. Then over here you've got your reverb for each individual channel, channel 1, 2, and 3 reverb. Then you've got a 5-band EQ, and then this here is your channel 1 selector, channel 2 selector, channel 3 selector, your effects loop, and then your reverb. So you can see here the green light on channel 1. Then when we switch over to channel 2, yellow light. When we switch to channel 3, red light. When we turn our reverb off down here, these reverbs are turned off. You see the light turn off. And then when we turn the effects loop off, the effects loop light turns off. You can see that the EQ is on, and so EQ in the first channel, EQ in the second channel, EQ in the third channel. Since we're here in the third channel right now, if we switch this off into the foot switch mode, it's going to turn off the EQ here, and it's instead going to go to the programmable foot switch that's included with the Mark VII. Well, let's say we go to channel 2. You're going to notice the EQ comes back on because on channel 2 the EQ is on. Same thing, if I turn it off, it turns off. So then I go up to channel 1, EQ is back on because the EQ is on. Next, going back through it, we've got 90 watts in the up position, 45 watts in the middle position, 25 watts in the bottom position. Channel 2, 90 watts, 45 watts, 25 watts. Channel 3, 90 watts, 45 watts, 25 watts. This is the face. That was it. This is a simple amp. This is really not as complicated as it initially comes off. And when you start to break down all the different modes and variations and amps that are built into this amp, like I was saying earlier, this is why this becomes the recording artist's dream amp. This is why it becomes the studio musician's dream amp. This is why it becomes the live player's dream amp. A home player, a garage player, a dad, a mom with kids, sleeping children in the next room, sleeping spouse in the next room. It's their dream amp too, because you can unplug the speaker cabinet and you can plug in your headphones in the back with a volume knob on it. So you can play this massive 90 watt amp completely silent from the rest of the world without losing any of your effects. You've still got your reverb, you've still got your channel switching, you can still select which power stage you want to be in, so 25, 45, or 90 watt. Everything is here and you're playing through a headphone, so you get to pull this out. Well, then it's band practice, and you pull your headphones out, plug the speaker cabinet back in, and boom, you're band practice, right? This is a really fantastic amp. So let's turn the effects back on, turn the reverb back on. And here in channel 1, you've got clean mode, fat mode, and crunch mode. This being the lowest channel of the 3, you're going to have the cleanest settings. Okay, so clean is exactly what it sounds like. It's a clean channel with very little breakup. Then you get into fat, where you start getting a little bit more breakup, and then crunch with the most breakup on this channel 1. What you do here is, if you don't want to use your 5-band EQ, you switch down to the foot switch, and again you go back to the programmable foot switch for the EQ. If you want to use it here and not the foot switch, you leave it on, and now you can program. Then we switch over to channel 2, and you've got fat, crunch, and Mark VII, the new amp on the Mark VII, the new amp in the Mark lineup. So from before, you've lost clean, but you've added Mark VII. So your first mode is fat, your second mode is crunch, and then your third mode is Mark VII. Well, again, we're going up in stages. So clean, fat, crunch, Mark VII. Right? We're stepping up in our staging of gain. That's why I said earlier, it's not really gain staging, but it's kind of gain staging, or we're stepping up in our gain stairs. So if I want to use the programmable EQ on the foot switch, I leave it down in the 0 foot switch position. I choose what setting I want it to be on in terms of your wattage, your power. So I'm going to put it in the Mark 7 mode. I'm, put it in the middle here at 45 because I think that's where it sounds best, or that's what I need in terms of where I want the amp to hit in that particular gain structure. I want it to hit in the 45 watt position. Now we're going to switch to channel 3. Same as before, Mark 2B on top. So real quick, let's go back. Mark 7 is an amp, Mark 2B is an amp, Mark 2C is an amp, and Mark 4 is an amp. So right here, you've got 4 different amps on board. You're not just playing through one amp. You've got Mark 7, Mark 2B, Mark 2C, Mark 4. This is crazy. You got 4 different amps. Well, then you got clean, fat, and crunch. So you've got these other 3 modes. So this is 7 different choices across 3 different gain staging options that are just so versatile. So we're going to go down to Mark 4. We're going to put the up positions in the EQ so that we can use the 5-band EQ here. We're going to throw it into the 90 watt because we want to just absolutely go insane. You're going to control everything, dial it in with your 3-band EQ on the bottom, your gain on the top left, your master in the top middle, and then your presence on the right. That's it. Let's say that you don't want to use the reverb right here. You don't want to use it on this, or maybe say you want to turn reverb off entirely. That's what all of the zeros also mean, where you see it says effects 0 / foot switch. It takes it to 0. It takes it to none. Reverb 0 / foot switch. It takes it to 0, to none, and then to the foot switch. So if it's got a foot switch attached to it, you're going to program from there. If it doesn't, it's going to be at the 0 position. So if you want to cut out reverb because you're using the Mark IV, you need it to be as tight as possible, go ahead and flip the reverb down. If you don't want that to be the case, you want to control, add some reverb to it from here, from the face, flip it in the up position, and then you're going to control channel 3, channel 2, channel 1. Effects loop. So you've got the option here for an effects loop, so you can turn this off and on in the back. If you're using it, throw in your delays, your wet pedals into your signal chain, into your effects loop, you can do that here, or you can turn it off, and that removes it from the signal path. So if you're trying to get from your guitar to your amp out, and you don't want to have anything in the signal path, you can turn the effects loop off, and it removes it, which is cool. Now with that, that's the overview of the front. Let's flip it around, have a look at the back. Okay, now that we're here on the backside, to continue to expand on all the features as if having 7 different modes wasn't enough, there's more. Start here on the right side this time. So we've got the Mesa foot switch, and then we also have MIDI in and then MIDI through and out. So your foot switch is going to go here. I think this is a 7-pin, 3, 6, 7-pin, and then you've got your MIDI in and out, which are 5 pins. Like I was saying earlier, you can control most of the amp through your foot switch. And then with your MIDI capabilities, you can really open up some more options, making it just an absurdly flexible amp. You got your effects loop here, which I was saying earlier. You can turn this on and off, and you can insert it into the signal chain, or you can turn it off and remove it from the signal chain. You've got 2 different sets of speakers here. So you've got 8 ohms on the left and then 4 ohms on the right. You can use your 2 4 ohms to go to 2 cabs with 8 ohms, or you can use your 2 8 ohms to go with 2 cabs at 16 ohms. So let's focus on this left side. This left side is dedicated mostly, not solely, but mostly to the Mesa Boogie Cab Clone IR. So if you've ever seen it, Mesa Boogie makes a pedal called the Cab Clone. It allows you to plug the unit into your amp and then simulate amp cabinets. Not amps, but cabinets in particular. So you can take this and you can turn it into a totally different vibe. 4x12, 210, 212, 112, open back, closed back, whatever the thing is. Different sounds, American, British, one of each, whatever the thing is. So you've got tons of really cool flexibility here at the Mesa Cab Clone IR. That's where your USB is going to come into. You've got a lift ground based on whatever the needs are. You've got a direct XLR out. So if you want to plug this directly into your interface and go from XLR, you've got that option. Then you've also got an input line out which is a dry signal, so you can run that out to the board. Then we get over here on the left side, you're going to see channel 1, 2, and 3 for the cab select. So when you're in the first channel, you're going to choose your cab accordingly. These are 8 presets that are customizable so that you can put in whatever cab IRs you want. Same thing for channel 2, have a different option, and channel 3. And these are going to correspond with whatever channel you're on at the time. But again, just giving you tons of control over here with the Mesa Cab Clone IR. Only further expanding this to the digital side beyond the analog physical side, which is just so cool. Next to last, we've got the store option so that you can store these controls inside of your MIDI. So flick up, flick down. And then lastly, you've got the EL34 and the 6L6 options for the tube biasing here, which is great because you're running the 6L6 in its default form when you get it from Mesa or your favorite dealer. When you receive it, it's going to be in 6L6, giving you that sound. And if you want to switch it over because you prefer the EL34, great. Put in the appropriate EL34 tubes, flip up, move on. So everything that you can do, it seems like no matter what the function and feature is, you can just take it one step further and expand on it. It's such a great, flexible, cool amp all the way around. And now that we've gone through everything, you can see why this is why I said this is the recording artist's dream amp. You can get everything. This is the studio musician's dream amp. This is an engineer's dream amp, right? You can get everything. And then if you're a live musician, same thing. If you want to take this with you and scrap cabs because the place you're playing is too small and you can't have a cab on stage, you can take this with you and run it direct. No problem. Now you're only taking the head with you. If you get to the next venue and it's bigger, you can plug this back in and then go straight to the board and go into your cab and whatever, right? There's all the variations. I've gone through them, but this is my point. You can do everything. Whatever stage of life you're in and whatever your use case is for an amp like this meets all of those needs. How great is this amp? How great is the Mesa Boogie Mark VII? You know, I'd gone to work and I was talking to a couple of friends, a couple of coworkers about the Mark VII and was really singing its praises because I couldn't believe that I was able to get the sounds from it that I could, like just how far I could take it. And the craziest thing is that, you know, here in the room with the one cab that I'm using, I could still just get so much. So I can bring in a second cab, plug in something totally different and just expand the sounds that I'm able to get from it, right? So if I'm using a 212, if I add a 412 or a 110 or a closed back or an open back or whatever, I can really take this thing just so much further than I've already taken it, which is just unbelievable. Anyways, I hope that you've enjoyed this walkthrough. Like I said earlier, there is another video coming, and that video is actually going to be exploring some of the sounds on each mode, on each amp, and really dialing in and seeing what the amp sounds like with the EQ on and with the EQ off, what it sounds like in every mode, and just really getting to play with it. And this was a fun one because we did it. I made this next video a little bit differently than I normally do, so I had a ton of fun exploring the sounds from a different perspective. Anyways, I hope that you've enjoyed this video. It's been a ton of fun to make, as always. If you want to find a Mesa Boogie Mark VII, if you're interested in one, you can check out the links below. I've got 2 of them for you. One will take you to mesaboogie.com, and the other will take you to Sweetwater. Those links help this channel. If you purchase from them, they're affiliate links. I would appreciate it greatly. If there's anything else in this video that's been used, like this microphone or that particular guitar or whatever the case is, I've also got all of those Sweetwater affiliate links below. So if you're interested in something that I'm using here, you can check them out with that particular link. And if you buy something, like I said, it helps support the channel. So I would greatly appreciate if you would check those out. Last but not least, thanks so much for spending some time with me. I hope that this video has been helpful, and I really enjoy getting to make these videos for you. Until next time, and as always, stay tuned.